Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? This is Amanda. I do hope that you're well. Today is the 9th of September 2022, and this is going to be my response video to the death of Queen Elizabeth II. I'm just going to light a candle before I start. These are my thoughts, these are my reflections, and this is my guidance basically for anybody that's feeling adrift, experiencing any form of grief, experiencing any form of emotion, to be perfectly honest. She was for some a very controversial figure, and it's interesting to me that one of the last teachings that I brought through, and I can't remember whether it was a video on YouTube or whether it was a video on Instagram and Facebook, was Metatron said, people have to be better at reading the room. And what he basically meant by that was, this is a perfect example of it. At a time of heightened emotion, when others are upset, triggered, having a reaction to something, witnessing something that is meaningful to them, it's important that we read the room. So you don't go in like a bull in a china shop to say what you think you have to say when other people are having a heart-opening moment. Because for many, when big public figures, whoever they are, leave the world, it is an opportunity for grief to exit the body. Now, this grief may very well be linked to the actual person that's passed, but it can also be, it can bring up memories of other people that we've lost. And it also is something whereby we all also are given a reflection of our own mortality, the fact that we're all going to die. And as human beings living in the sort of society that we do at the moment, we like to push that fact away and not consider it a lot of the time. And indeed, a lot of the behaviour that we exhibit in life, some of the things we say, we probably wouldn't actually say or do if we thought it was our last moment here on Earth. We would all act probably in a better way. So there's multiple things that happen when a big public figure dies, whoever they are. Definitely there is an opening for grief to come out, and that's a very sacred moment, and it shouldn't be dissed by anybody. There is a time period shortly after somebody dies where I think there needs to be a degree of decorum and respect and dignity for whoever has passed. When it became apparent yesterday that she probably was going to die, because Buckingham Palace released a statement at lunchtime saying that they were observing her health, and then obviously all members of her family, her immediate family, all of her children and her grandchildren went up to Scotland, Balmoral, where she was living. It's one of her homes, one of her stately homes, Balmoral. Everybody knew what was coming because no updates were ever given on the Queen's health. And at that point, I said on Facebook and Instagram that when I commented on her, what was imminently about to happen, I would be switching off the comments because I wanted to be able to witness a historical event happening. There's going to be 10 days of mourning now as well. I wanted to be able to sit with my own emotions around her and the whole subject. And I also wanted to not have to moderate a playground of hate, is what I called it, because I knew the type of comments that would come in when she passed. It has to be said that the vast majority of comments, because I did actually change my mind, because I thought, no, why should we not be allowed to honour somebody if that's what we wish to do, because we're fearful of what others will say? So I did put the comments on, and actually I would say 90%, maybe over 90%, maybe even 95% have been nothing but positive. I'm very aware also, though, that some people are actually reading the room. And actually my respect goes out to you big time. The people who maybe have a different opinion on the Queen, but who managed yesterday to zip it, to not say anything, to respect other people's grief, how other people were feeling, and absolutely read the room, read the moment, realised it was inappropriate at that time to say something. I have great respect for people that do that, including, you know, some spiritual teachers who I know have got particular opinions on somebody like Queen Elizabeth and who did stay silent yesterday. I'm sure they're not going to stay silent forever, but within that period of decorum, they did that, and I honour people that were able to do that. But for those that couldn't, learn to read the room is what I want to say. Learn to read the room. And I don't want this video to become a portal for hate or negativity either. It's really a place for people to gather who have been affected by her death, and who want to share maybe some memories, some experiences you may have had. Maybe you've met her. Not everybody in the UK has met the Queen. I remember going out to the States, one of my first workshops, and somebody said to me, so have you had tea with the Queen? It's not quite like that. There are 70 million of us, and most of us have never met her or never got to meet her. But lots of people do have experiences and memories which are very positive, and it's nice to hear those when somebody passes over. So these are some points that I've just written down about her. In terms of her soul contract, I mean, she has to be one of the beings on the planet that had one of the biggest soul contracts that anybody could have chosen through the last century. And I've said this before when I've read on the royals. Somebody like Queen Elizabeth, but you could also say that about Prince Charles, you could say it about Prince William, who ultimately will be the longer term king going forward, although I'll come to that in a minute. These are big soul contracts that many other souls pass up because they don't want that level of responsibility, that level of duty, that level of scrutinization. You know, forget the trappings and the money and the jewels and all of that. You can't take any of that with you anyway. It's a big soul contract to undertake to be the Queen of England. She did it successfully for 70 years. She's the longest running ever monarch. And you see how I keep slipping into present moment, because it's actually going to take quite a while for people to get used to the fact that she's gone. When I heard that she had died yesterday, I had a bit of a reaction, but not much. And then this morning I've woken up and I feel it much more deeply. And I think this is something that's probably going to happen to many people, because it's going to take a little bit of a while to sink in that she has actually gone. And yes, she did go yesterday. She hadn't died before. I'm not into all of, a lot of these theories that are out there. I don't believe that she had already gone. Yesterday was the day that she died. Did you see the two beautiful rainbows that appeared probably pretty soon after she had died? I think they have released the time of death. I think it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. But there was a double rainbow that appeared over Buckingham Palace, and there was also a rainbow that appeared over Windsor Castle, which is another one of her residences that she used to live at, in fact more than Buckingham Palace, certainly in her later years. As they lowered the flag at Windsor Castle, another rainbow appeared overhead. And it's so interesting, isn't it, that when you get those extraordinary signs from spirit, because it is a sign from spirit, a rainbow is a sign, is a blessing, it's a sign of a blessing. The people who speak ill of her, or believe ill of her, Who's to say at the end of the day, history will judge everybody. But they like to sweep little things like that under the carpet. I actually saw somebody say, oh, well, they probably manipulated that. They made that rainbow. You know, that's the level of denial, and that's the level of digging yourself even further into the hole that you're in, because you don't actually want to witness that actually that was a beautiful blessing from nature. At the moment she passed, there's a double rainbow. It's nothing other than a blessing. I remember when my mother-in-law died, and we came out of the funeral, and it started to snow. And again, it's a sign from symbol. It's a symbol from nature. Snow is purification. Snow is purity. I knew at that moment when I saw the snow that it was like God blessing a life well done. And you know, it was all about love, and that's what the rainbow was about as well. Yesterday, it poured with rain in the UK, and I believe I'm right because I wasn't actually alive when she was crowned queen. But I believe it rained I believe it rained very heavily on the day of her coronation. And again, rain doesn't have to be. Rain is not a curse. Rain is a blessing. How many of us are living in places where we've had drought over the summer? How many countries are experiencing drought right now? Without rain, you die. We all die on this planet without rain. So never see rain as something that is negative. It might spoil your hair, but it's not, it's a blessing. Rain is a blessing. It's the stuff of life. So it poured with rain on her coronation day. It poured with rain yesterday, pretty much up and down the country. There were people standing outside Buckingham Palace in the pouring rain last night. There probably still are today, although it's a little bit brighter. And it was raining at Balmoral as well. So it felt as though the elements were playing their part yesterday in what was occurring, which was a seismic shift. Certainly within the United Kingdom. I know also she's a queen of other countries as well, and I also know she's been a figure on the world stage. As I say, for the last 70 years, most of us don't remember a time when the Queen wasn't here. I have never lived through a time in this incarnation where she wasn't the head of state, where she wasn't just this regular face that you saw all of the time, every now and again on the TV. She always popped up at times of extraordinary turmoil and challenge. Again, if you look back in further in terms of the wars and what happened with the wars and the role that she played there. And then she came to power at about the age 25, 26, when her father died very unexpectedly from a heart attack. Her father wasn't even meant to be king. He only became king because George the whatever it was abdicated and went off with Wallis Simpson to France. So her father was never meant to be king. He then dies of a heart attack and she becomes queen at 25. 25. And she then rules for the next 70 years. And even people who don't have a great deal of time for her, I noticed yesterday were saying, I don't have a lot of time for her. I didn't particularly like her, but I do take my hat off to the fact that here was somebody who committed their whole life to public service. And it was a contract which was very much about showing people what duty and responsibility look like. Okay, what do duty and responsibility look like? In a time when duty and responsibility aren't very sexy words in our life anymore, you know, who wants that? But she carried it, and she died, I think, 2 days after what we call signing in the new Prime Minister of the UK. And I said to my husband last night, I said, she stayed to do that. I really believe that she knew she was going to die. She was at the end of her life. It was very apparent that that was the case. She was 96 when she did die. And she stayed to finish the job. And the last bit of the job, the last dot on the I and crossing the T's, was signing in the last Prime Minister of her reign, she actually signed in 15 United Kingdom prime ministers in her time, going right the way back to Winston Churchill, to maybe before that as well, to Liz Truss, who is the UK's new prime minister as of this week. She also lived through 14 USA presidents. She has met, I keep saying has, she had met all world leaders on the world stage over most of our lifetimes. So her death is huge. Whatever you think about her, her death is a huge thing, and it will create a huge wave of change across our planet. Now, it's interesting that she died in Balmoral in Scotland rather than London. Having said that, Balmoral is still not as far from London as it is from, I don't know, New York or somewhere like that, because within the United Kingdom, we have two very important Earth chakra points. London is actually the Earth Star Chakra for the planet, and the heart chakra is Glastonbury. So she dies in Balmoral. But I still want to say, because she's so linked to London, and of course her home really was in London, and the constitutional home is in London, think about what the Earth Star Chakra is. The Earth Star Chakra is the anchor of our planet. So what's happened is the anchor has been taken away because she represented that. Again, whether you like her or you didn't, she's the constitutional head. She has ruled for 70 years. She's been a very strong anchor for our country and a lot of the rest of the world. You take the anchor out, and the anchor is basically at the moment loose and wobbling all over the place, and it won't be properly planted again until the next chapter comes in. So there's a wobble in the Earth Star Chakra right now, but it will find its rooting again. But actually, in terms of the chakras of the body, I also will just note this, that when Princess Diana died, a lot of people felt it within their heart chakra. So Queen Elizabeth's passing, still there's going to be an outpouring of grief, which comes from your heart chakra, it comes from your lungs, but it's also linked into the solar plexus, because Queen Elizabeth represented power. She represented power. She represented sovereignty. Now, you may very well think, well, but we are all sovereign. Well, we are. Of course we are. We're all sovereign. We all have power. So what it's doing is it's stimulating this area. And I felt it this morning when I woke up. Remember, your solar plexus is actually quite large. It's not just like that little dot in the middle of your belly button. It can go all the way up to just underneath your rib cage here as well. It's quite a large area, the solar plexus. So you may very well be experiencing issues with your stomach, with your digestive issues. So that's happening at a personal level as an impact after her death. But equally, the Earth chakras is the Earth Star and it's the heart chakra, which again are just trying to find their balance, and they will come back into balance. The other thing I'm noticing just in terms of physiology and reaction is I've literally had a headache since she probably died, actually. I mean, I did do 2 hours of channeling yesterday. I have channeled Nikola Tesla for the second time. It's about an hour and 45 minutes, actually, after editing. And I was going to release it last night, but for obvious reasons, I'm holding it back. So I will release the Tesla video in a couple of days' time, or whenever I feel the timing is appropriate. Yeah, the headache came around 2 o'clock, probably just before she was about to pass. But again, if you think about the symbolism of that, the head is the crown chakra. What has she represented? She's represented the crown. We all have a crown. So I am actually just going to use a couple of my sprays at this point before I say anything more about my reflections and observations linked into Queen Elizabeth. I'm actually going to use the silver crown spray because I used to get loads of headaches, actually, but I haven't for a long time. So I know this is an energetic reaction to what's going on in the collective. As an empath, like many of you are, remember we also soak up other people's shock. And I said to Metatron today, I said, right, I'm not owning anything other than my own reaction to this. And I got the card, the 10 of Wands is what I saw in my mind's eye. Because even though I'm a spiritual teacher and I'm very happy to come on and convey this message to you, because I think it's important and I want to be there for you, I'm also not going to take on everyone's anger and everyone's triggering. I've had at least 100 people leave my channel overnight because I posted a picture of the Queen. That's your stuff, that's your triggers. It's got nothing to do with me. You know, if your interest in me is as shallow as I say one thing you don't agree with and you're off, it's fine, just leave, okay? So, you know, literally, I'm just going to be concentrating on my reaction, because as an empath, I'm not taking on anybody else's stuff. And I'm saying that because I suspect a lot of you are empaths as well. And don't you take on other people's stuff around this whole situation with Queen Elizabeth. I would go so far, I'll do this crown in a minute, I'd go so far as to say that, for example, on Instagram, I will let you into a little tip. You can go, if you follow somebody, okay, and you know that you're not going to like the content that they put out over the next couple of weeks, including maybe my content, although I don't plan to be there very much because I'm going to honour this 10 days. But, you know, it's somebody that triggers you, you don't like what they're saying about the Queen, you don't like what, you know, it's very predictable. We know what people are going to say, some people are going to say. You can go onto their account, and where there's the little button which says following, if you click on that, there's 3 little buttons. There's an option which says mute. And what that basically means is you don't stop following them, you just mute them. And you won't see any of their posts, any of their stories. And then, you know, when the dust has settled and you're feeling more centered or whatever, you can come back and you can unmute them, and then you'll see their posts again. And that's a much more grown up and mature way to go about things, rather than just storming off in a huff, okay, which is what people tend to do with me. But I don't do that to other people. I try to practice what I preach. So I'm not going to unfollow anybody for saying something that I don't agree with over the next couple of weeks or today with regards to the Queen. I'm just going to quietly mute them, okay, and allow them. By doing that, you're also allowing them their space, but you don't have to be party to it. And you don't have to be party to my space if I'm triggering you. Just mute me. It's not an issue, okay? Right. Yeah, it's a grown-up way to do it. In fact, I've seen a few people recently come back to my channel who I know went off when I was talking a lot about the JAB. And that's fine. Welcome back. You know, it's the grown-up way to do things. We're never going to agree on every subject. But it's impossible for somebody like myself as a spiritual teacher to say nothing when something as momentous as this happens. And of course I have an opinion on it. And I also have a reaction in my body that I'm going to honour and I'm going to talk about. Okay, because I also know that what's happening to me is happening to many other people, even if it's not happening to you. Okay, so if you want a different discussion on the Queen, and she's this and she's that, and the whole reptilian lizard thing and all of that, there's loads of people on YouTube that you can go to that will serve you at this moment in time if that's the route you want to go down. But you're not going to find it here, okay? And I'm going to tell you just why you're not going to find it here. I'm very much somebody who deals with facts as they come forward. So I don't pay a lot of credence. I will listen to people's opinions, including those on YouTube, people with large followings. I will listen to them, but I will never judge somebody until there is 100% factual proof of things. And that isn't just about someone's done a podcast and somebody said this or somebody said that or somebody's written a book. You know, it has to be rock solid evidence. So and if that ever were to occur, I would come back on and I would discuss that and I would bring through the spiritual teaching for that. But, you know, a lot of the people out there that are sort of like, well, don't you know this? It's almost like, again, it's a lesson and it's an opportunity for us to practice patience and compassion and non-reaction, actually, because there's a part of me, my lower self, which could say, you know, I was reading David Icke probably before you were even born. You know, I know what's out there. So we have to honour everybody's path, but you can only work on your own reaction, okay, and how you're feeling. And I do want to honour this lady's passing, because she has been an iconic figure for the whole of my life, and she's absolutely been an anchor. And I truly believe history judges everybody anyway. So that's what I believe. That is what I believe. Where were we anyway? We're going to do the crown, the headache. Okay, so yeah, silver crown. Those of you that use my sprays, you might have the silver crown chakra spray. This is definitely a time to use it. Maybe also the teal altar major, but I've just got the silver one to hand. So I'm just going to help this. This is going to go over my crown because it acts a bit like a filter. So it helps to cleanse away any energetic debris that you have around your own crown, but also it acts a bit like a sieve. So you're filtering out energy that is not helpful to you at this time, including maybe other people's opinions, other people's vitriol, other people's attack, etc. And it just allows in that soft energy of love. So I always see it like a silver sieve or a silver colander when I spray this over the crown. And it just helps to purify. Silver is purifying. And at the end of the day, a queen or a king that wears a crown is symbolic of all of us. They're a symbol of sovereignty. And really, you should be looking at that and seeing your own self. You should be seeing yourself as worthy of holding the crown. So let's purify this space before the crown goes on to the next person. Okay, what else have I got to say? What have I done with my glasses? Oh, they're there. I've also written here that during times of great change and crisis, people show who they are. And this is tied into Metatron's point about read the room. Just have some respect for other people's journeys, other people's feelings, other people's grief. There's a thing about not trampling over other people's feelings at this time. There is a time and there is a place. And I know most of you get this, but some people don't. So, right, there's that. 15 UK prime ministers, 14 US presidents. None of us remember a time without her. Soul contract complete. That's the other thing about the double rainbow. The double rainbow was signifying that the soul contract was complete. I strongly suspect, I haven't wanted to tune in yet, but I probably will at some point, but Prince Philip would have been there at her bed ready to take her over the rainbow bridge. It was a rainbow bridge that we could see. In fact, I'm being told it was a double rainbow bridge because he's been waiting for her properly to transition to spirit until she was there as well. So they both walked each other to their next destination. Sounds like she died peacefully in her bed. They haven't actually said what she died of. I'm assuming it was probably a stroke or something like that. It was obviously very sudden because 2 days ago she was up on her feet, albeit looking very frail with a very big purple patch on her wrist, palm, not palm, this bit of the hand, which you see a lot in elderly people. They bruise very easily. So that last photograph of her where she is greeting Liz Truss is actually a very beautiful photograph. A lot of people can see like a grandmotherly energy in that. It's like a matriarch energy. It's a beautiful smile. It's a beautiful last photograph, actually. Some people are saying that she died on one of Mother Mary's feast days as well. I haven't got that information to hand, but I did double check it yesterday and it is correct. If you Google September the 8th, Mother Mary, there is a link with that. Another thing I thought was very interesting is a lot of people have been talking about Operation London Bridge, which was actually a code name for when the Queen dies, because everyone knew she was going to at some point, and there has to be a protocol of what happens during the 10 days of mourning, you know, etc. But what is quite interesting is that because she didn't die in London, which it would have been Operation London Bridge, she died in Scotland. It's called something else. And again, the symbolism of the energy of this is quite interesting. It's called Operation Unicorn. And unicorn, of course, is a very high vibrational 7th dimensional frequency. So even people mentioning unicorn in the news, they're not obviously going to be tuning into, oh, it's 7th dimensional energy. It's also a Christ consciousness energy, but actually they are bringing that forth. Every time you say the word unicorn, you're bringing them in. So it's called Operation Unicorn. And so that was worth noting, actually. And I think we'll hear the bagpipes, and there's going to be I like the fact that also in many ways that she died in Scotland, because I think a lot of people who maybe watch from other countries, there's a few comments that came in yesterday saying, thinking of everybody in England, she was a queen of the whole of the United Kingdom. It wasn't just England. Great Britain, it's Scotland, it's Wales, it's England, it's Northern Ireland. But of course, she was also queen of the Commonwealth. She was queen. Many people loved her. So, but yeah, the Scottish thing is, if I just tune into the energy of Scotland, it's just a very grounded energy. I'm not saying London isn't, but it's just got a different type of energy to it. So yeah, she'll be honoured in Scotland as well. There is a double, what do I want to say? Actually, before I say the last part, I'm going to end it in a minute. I'll just show you the cards that I pulled immediately after. Did I pull this just immediately after her death or just before her death? And I think it was just before her death, because we knew she was going in the afternoon. So I just pulled some cards. And the first card I got was the card of the Three of Cups, which is a card of celebration. And straight away, I heard that there was going to be the biggest party in heaven for her. And yes, I know that triggers some people who don't want to see her going to heaven. But, ultimately, God loves everybody. God honours all soul contracts, whatever you think her soul contract was. In duality, she played her role brilliantly. She was meant to be who she was meant to be. And even if you believe she was a terrible person, which is not what I believe, actually, but say you do, from a violet pill perspective and a duality perspective, you have to have people like that so you can have the opposite. You can't have this planet otherwise, because this planet is a planet of duality. So again, these people that are being so vile online, they haven't even grasped the first tenet of true duality teaching. They haven't. Because if you've grasped what duality is, and you understand that this is a planet of duality, you need both types of being. You need dark and you need light. Whatever you think she was, she played her role here on this earth. So this Three of Cups, anyway, straight away I heard it was a celebration in heaven. And I just saw so many people waiting to greet her. In fact, let me just tune into this a moment. Hold on. Because straight away I was seeing the obvious, Prince Philip and her mother, her father. But I was also getting this, and I'm still seeing this huge crowd that are greeting her with applause. And it's like a job well done, a job well done. The biggest soul contract, one of the biggest, not the only one, but one of the biggest soul contracts in our lifetime has just played out to a double rainbow. Operation Unicorn. There is applause in the higher realms for what she was able to achieve in her lifetime. I can't even scrape the barrel with regard to what she achieved in her lifetime. Even if you didn't like her, I would really recommend you watch some of the history programs over the next week, because she lived through times of extraordinary change, extraordinary challenge, and she did a lot. She did a lot. So yeah, that was the first card anyway, the Three of Cups, celebration in heaven. The Queen of Swords upside down was an obvious one. I also felt this was that the truth wasn't being revealed, because I felt that when I pulled the card, she'd already died. And actually it transpired she probably had. But I understand why they didn't say it immediately, because they were waiting for all of her family to gather. And I think some of them didn't make it. I don't think Harry made it in time, which is a shame for him, because I think he had turned down an invitation to go and see her over the last week for whatever reason, unhealed wounding. But he'll regret that now. He'll regret that big time. But anyway, they waited until all her family were there, till they announced it. But yeah, she probably had gone before. When I pulled it, she'd already left. We then got this card, which is the Prince of Cups. I see this as, it's almost like we go from a queen to a prince. I mean, in many ways we do, because actually it passes to Charles, who at the moment is the Prince of Wales. He will become Charles III when he is crowned, but there's going to be a gap between her death and when he's crowned. He doesn't get crowned immediately. It might not even be till next year. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think there's usually a reasonable gap between the death and the crowning of a new monarch. Now, in that gap, and I think it could be next year, anything could happen. And I'm not wishing anything in, but I've always seen the long-term future of the monarchy is with Prince William. So if William becomes king, it's not going to be for that long, and William's going to be stepping up much sooner than he thinks he is. I've said this all along. I've said this for years. So it's like it's going to the prince. It's going to the younger person. The country's at a crossroads. The Two of Swords, and the country's in mourning. Those were the cards that I got. The Five of Cups. So, you know, I think they say everything, don't they? I might just pull a couple of cards now. Anything else that I wanted to say? Let's just end with a couple of cards for today. And anything else that wants to come through. Let me put these cards back into the deck and reshuffle. I think also, you know, when somebody prominent dies, it's very important for an international audience to respect other countries' traditions. And I think there's learning in that for all of us. Because, you know, I'm talking outside of the UK now, although I know there are people in the UK that want a republic, you know, who aren't for the Queen. You know, that's not new news. But most people love the Queen. I think if you did a referendum, most people would still say they wanted it. It might change in the future, but they'll be there for as long as people want them, basically. And then they won't. But yeah, I think it's important to just respect other traditions, other countries' traditions. And this is our tradition. It's a tradition that we've had a monarch for centuries. And many of us are very proud of our history. And I've often thought, you know, other countries, when prominent figures die, who I might not like at all, who I might not agree with at all, but I would never diss another country's leader when they pass. I would always come on and try and encourage us to be respectful and kind. Kindness is a very underrated thing, isn't it? Very underrated. It's important to be kind at this time. It's important to be sensitive to other people's feelings. You know, this morning I'm going to go around and see my mum, who lives on her own, who I know is going to be absolutely devastated that the Queen's died. I'm going to take her a bunch of flowers because she needs a little bunch of flowers today. I'm not going to trample over her feelings, not that I want to anyway. But, you know, it's like how we behave right now is a measure of who we are as an individual. And that also means that, you know, if there's people that we don't agree with at the moment on this subject, allow them space. Allow them space. You don't have to be in their face either. Okay. Right. The Magician card has come out, and the Three of Swords. So it feels as though there's an energy here of the UK's lost its magic. The UK's lost its magic. And I'm talking here about magic in terms of, why do people turn up and come to the UK? I mean, it's a brilliant country, come. It's got beautiful hills and countryside, and it's not just about London. But if you ask a lot of the people in London, the Japanese tourists, the American tourists, they're there because they came to see the Queen. They came to look at Buckingham Palace. Not everybody, but it's a huge draw in terms of tourism. So it's almost like, oh, there's an energy here of the fairy tale is over for some. For some, not for everybody, but for some. Eight of Cups. Oh, wow. Wow. And then on the bottom of the deck, Eight of Cups, walking away from something, the end of the Elizabethan Age, okay? Because it's the end of the Elizabethan Age. Look what comes next. The King of Wands. And what's really interesting, guys, is that next to the King of Wands, we've got the Moon. And the Moon is the card linked into the energy of Cancer. or it always reminds me of the energy of Cancer, because Cancer is linked to the moon. Prince William is the Cancer. And we've got the Knight of Swords, and we've got the energy of death, and wow. It's like there's going to be a bit of a battle for the crown. There's going to be a bit of a battle for the crown. The Knight of Swords, death, Ten of Pentacles is the inheritance. What is the inheritance? The inheritance is who sits on the crown. Who sits on the crown? Who is the person who heads up the state? This is like the Queen or the King sitting in the Houses of Parliament. You know, it's law, it's order, it's stability. Who eventually ends up there is the King of Wands. The question mark is whether it's Charles or whether it's William. It could be both. It might just be that Charles isn't there for very long, but I just have always felt William's energy very strongly. Maybe it's just because I'm seeing the long-term vision. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Anything else to say? I'm just going to end, I think, by spraying the bronze Earth Star Chakra spray because of the anchor. So important just to ground our energy. Earth Star is the energy beneath our feet. Ground, ground, ground. Put your anchor down. Be your own anchor. And I'm hearing the words pregnant pause. There is a pregnant pause right now between what has left and what is to come. And I'm going to leave it there for now. So thank you very much, everybody, for your loving comments. Thank you to the people who were able to read the room and not come on and say what doesn't need to be said at this time. And rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth. And what we say in our country, after we've said rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth, we say long live King Charles III, because it's all about continuity. And the monarchy for us represents continuity. So life carries on. Life always carries on. Did you just see a little orb pass by? I did. As I said, life carries on. Continuity. Take care of yourselves. Lots of love. See you for Tesla in a few days. It's a great video. I put a lot of effort into it. And as I say, it's a long one. It's 1 hour and 3/4. But I would like there to be a pregnant pause before I post it up so that it gets its rightful space and people are in the right mindset to watch it. But I also wanted to honour what's happened in my country over the last 24 hours. Take care, guys. Lots of love. Bye for now.